On this week's show, the Georgia Southern Eagles, coming off a bye week, finally get back to action as they travel to Indiana for their first ever matchup with the Hoosiers. We'll preview that and have much more as we welcome you inside the Eagles' Nest. Welcome inside the Eagles' Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald, Mike Anthony. And Mike, it's been a while since the Eagles hit the field. They're going to be taking on Indiana up there in Bloomington. Looks like point spread somewhere around 3 touchdowns that they should be. That's the way Vegas looks at it, as being a fairly lopsided game. The Eagles with a lot of questions to be answered in the past bye week. Your thoughts on where they are right now?
Yeah, definitely a tough matchup on the road at a Big Ten opponent. Indiana has shown some flashes this year, leading Ohio State for a while early in the season. But from what we've seen of Georgia Southern the first couple of games, the last thing they can really be worried about is Indiana right now. Sure, you've got to line up against them and try to beat them, but right now Georgia Southern's got to keep from beating itself. Offensively, there's just not a lot of execution right now. Guys not being where they're supposed to be. When they do get to where they're supposed to be, they're not making the move, they're not breaking the tackle, they're not making the block. The defense, to its credit, is held in there at times, but they've got to have a little help on the other side of the ball.
Speaking of taking a beating, I took a little bit of a beating in our press conference, asking a few questions about the Eagles possibly going under center. It's not crazy because when Brian Cook took over, he said we're going to be primarily out of the gun, but we will go under center, and that is going to be part of our packages. We haven't seen it yet, and I brought it up simply because of the fact that the Eagles have struggled mightily, and I just thought, is there any chance that something like that might be what sparks them? I didn't quite get the answers, and we know how that is when you ask a question of a coach and they kind of evade it. A lot of times you got to follow it up. That's all. It wasn't let's scrap the the shotgun in favor of going under center. But there are some major issues on that offense.
Right, and I think that might be why you haven't seen Georgia Southern go in a drastically different direction or turn to the other half of the playbook. You talk about players needing to build up confidence to play their best. I think that could translate to the coaching side as well. And when you're, whether it's a position coach or a coordinator, when you're seeing the things that you believe in, that you're trying to do, and you're seeing it not work in real time, do you scrap it and go in a different direction, or do you maybe work on your own confidence and trying to get that vision to where you want it to be? So I think that might be why you're not seeing Georgia Southern do a lot of different things, because the staff does believe that what they're doing can work and will work when it's executed properly. So why get away from that and maybe go into something else that you aren't as experienced, aren't as prepared for? You'd rather wait and see if maybe you can get this right the way that you intended to.
Yeah, and I guess the big question is, how much of an improvement are we going to see? You're playing a Big Ten team up at their place. I think the good thing about this is, for Indiana, they're seeing Georgia Southern. They have who's Georgia Southern? Are they Georgia State? Are they Georgia Southern? These guys are supposedly one of the worst teams in FBS, according to some of the pros at ESPN and USA Today. So it could be a game in which they're overlooking Georgia Southern. They score a few points. What would be considered a victory for Georgia Southern at this point?
Well, I mean, if you ask the coaches, a victory is a victory. They talk about no moral victories, but for the people in the stands, for the people keeping up with Georgia Southern, they just want to see some forward progress, and that's literal and figurative. The offense needs to work a little bit more. The numbers were kind of there against New Hampshire, but you saw drives that maybe went 70 yards, but they took up half of a quarter, going for 3 and 4 yards a play. You'd like to see that be a little bit better. I know you can't expect a 50-yard busted play on every single snap, but they do have to have a little bit more of a haymaker there if they really want to be a threat to put points on the board to help out that defense, which, as I said, has the ability to make some plays. They're going to need to make a lot against an Indiana team that goes at a quick pace. They really get it moving through the air. So I have confidence in Georgia Southern's secondary to be able to negate some of that high-powered Indiana offense. But if the Georgia Southern offense isn't able to do its part, then I really don't know how much you can expect from the Eagles in this game.
All right. Well, we had a chance to talk with head coach Tyson Summers and a few of the players about the big matchup with Indiana and how things are going for the Eagles.
I mean, it's opportunity. We got another chance to play on a bigger stage and to showcase our skills and our talents. And they're a pretty good team. I mean, it's a big stage. So what we do against them, it can possibly impact our season for the remainder of our season. So we just, like I said, we just got to come to work, man. It's not going to be easy. They're not going to just lay down and give us a win so we can be 1-2. They trying to win too. So we just got to come to work, and we will see what happens.
We had a little delay with the first 2 days of the bye week due to the hurricane, but the last 3 days we felt comfortable with the rest of the dress rehearsal that we had and practice that we got a chance to do. We have a couple of leaders step up. They stepped up even after the game. We always have leaders. I feel like last week had a big part, and I think it'll be a big part of our season where a lot of people stepping up and saying stuff, and we did a lot of things different.
Our biggest thing is working on the small things, minor mistakes. Those what really led us to what happened last Saturday. We had a lot of small mistakes that made big impacts in the play and throughout the game. Indiana's a great team. It'll be a good game. As far as preparation, I feel like we'll be well prepared going into this game.
The big thing, Josh,